Hey, Brad here from Hoops, and I'm going to take you through an exciting workflow that you can implement to create extremely accurate job costing using Xero. So we at Hoops have obviously a very deep integration, a two-way sync integration with Xero, which allows you to send purchase orders and invoices both across to Xero from Hoops. So I'm going to go through that process and then also show you how you can do project and therefore job costing inside Xero using the invoice and the purchase orders that you're sending from Hoops. So it's quite a detailed video and there are some fairly specific steps that you must go through. So let's dive in. So nuts and bolts, you must head to settings and integrations. And if you haven't done already, integrate with Xero. It's a very simple process if you haven't, and there's lots of video training in our learning center as well. So firstly, let's have a quick look at the quote that we're going to send across, because this is going to help us understand why we might do this. So let's head into the item builder and have a look at how this is all configured. So you can see that we've got 400 t-shirts with some screen printing and embroidery. So we're buying the shirts from a specific vendor, we're buying the screen printing from a secondary vendor, and then we're also buying the embroidery from another vendor as well. So what that means is we're going to then be raising 3 purchase orders. So anyone who's worked with Hoops for a while will understand that vendor equals purchase order is the way that we think, and therefore the 3 vendors that we have here are going to therefore create 3 purchase orders. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to choose actions and convert this quote into being a job. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the job number into this reference number just here. The reason that I do that after the job is created is the job number is only actually assigned once the job has been created. So let's go 1006065. This is really important. It's this reference number that you're going to use inside Xero to tie all of these different threads together. So the next step is we will raise an invoice. Actions, create invoice, and choose save. You would obviously make sure that your the accounts and everything are correct, but we'll choose save. Okay, now let me jump quickly across into my Xero account. So this is what we're going to be able to produce, is a project summary report as well as granular project reports inside Xero. So firstly, let's head across inside Xero to projects and all projects. So my job is for total plumbing options. And you can see here that we have at the bottom of this list of projects, total plumbing options, and then the job number, 1006065. That's where that becomes really important, that job number. You'll see that that has come in automatically. That is not done through the Hoops to Xero integration. That is done through the Zapier integration. So you must integrate your Hoops account with Zapier for that project to come across automatically. That being said, adding a project manually is as simple as add a new project, draft, put your 6065, let's call it 6065A. Oh, sorry. Select a contact. And choose create. Very quick and easy to do that. However, I had decided to set up a Zapier integration, which allowed me to bring across this total plumbing options job automatically without me needing to do that whatsoever. So I'm just going to remove the job that I just created. Which is this draft one. I'm just going to delete that to avoid any confusion. However, it's very simple to create that project manually, or obviously you can be doing it via the Zapier integration. I will create a second video to go through the Zapier integration because that's something of its own, and that requires its own configuration if you want that coming in automatically. So it's this project that we're going to use to tie together the profitability. So we're going to know how much has been invoiced, what were the costs related to this particular project, and therefore what was the profit, and we can then pull that report. So we already sent across the invoice into Xero. So let's head, this invoiced amount we just simply need to assign the invoice that we created for total plumbing options to that project. Very quick and easy to do this one. So when that invoice is sent across into Xero, you just simply choose the project column. And I mentioned why the reference was important. You'll notice in the top right-hand corner here, this reference field is populated with the reference from this particular job. From the reference field on this particular job, not the job number. That's why it's important that this is added into the job board. You'll then use that reference number to tie together this invoice to the project. So 1006065, and we'll approve that. So we can start to see this project build, the project report build up as we assign all of these different pieces to it. So you can now see that the invoiced amount is $6,188. You can see the invoice and access it from here. And now it's time for us to bring across the purchase orders for this particular job and assign these here as well. So inside Hoops, we'll head into the purchase orders tab, choose add purchase order. And remember, we had 3. So we'll save that PO and create the rest. So we need to create all 3 of these purchase orders. You may do that in one run. You may do that over time. This is all focused on one specific job and one workflow doing all of this in one go, which is not always how you will actually perform these tasks. But both Hoops and Xero make it quite easy as to what has and hasn't had the purchase orders created, or in Xero's case, purchase orders converted across into being bills. Okay, the POs have all been created in Hoops, which you would have needed to have done anyway to order all that stock, to order the decorations from a third-party decorator, if that's the case. And we're now going to choose Actions and Send to Xero. I'll do that quickly for all of these POs, and we'll start to see these accounting PO numbers populate. Back in Xero, we'll choose Business, Purchase Orders. And I like to work out of this draft tab. I think that this is a handy to-do list. So we can see here that reference number once again of the purchase order inherits the reference number from the job. So by adding the reference number onto the job board, when I raised those purchase orders for this job, it automatically included the reference number, which is how we then tie all of this together inside Xero. So back in Xero, in my draft view, I'm just going to go ahead and click on all of these purchase orders and choose Approve, which automatically kicks you across to this screen, and then you'll choose Mark as Billed. It's important here to make sure that you do check the box of Copy Purchase Order to a Draft Bill and click OK. You'll then end up at this screen where you now have a button. So you have a bill, and you now have a button to assign expenses to a customer or project. So let's click that button. And remember, we've got the purchase order reference or the job number reference here, 1006065. And we will simply select all of these. Now, one of the tricky parts of the Xero interface is you cannot just click OK. It won't actually assign the expense at that point. So you must click Assign, and you can see here that this populates. Then click OK. I'm just going to save this bill rather than approving it. That's up to you and your workflow how you would do that. So business purchase orders, and let's go draft view again, and we'll just head through and do all 3 of these POs. Again, you would be doing this in a more regular cycle rather than all at once. Always remember to click that Assign button, and we'll save that PO. Sorry, save that bill. The purchase order converted into being a bill. Okay, so now let's head back into projects and now have a look at our project. So if we head across into the profitability tab, you'll see that the costs have all been allocated here. So we can see that we have a gross profit margin of 21.5% on this order because we have profit of $1,329. You could continue to add more expenses to this as well. And this is where it becomes really powerful, is you may have a supplier that bills you for shipping. And what we can see here is, let me head into business and bills to pay. And I have a draft bill that I created a little earlier, but you can easily go new bill. And this is something that Hoops doesn't know about. This is something that is usually sent directly from the shipping company to you. And you may not have known what these costs were going to be when you quoted the job to the accurate cent. So yes, you've invoiced a certain amount, but perhaps that hasn't ended up on a purchase order for the shipping company because at that stage you didn't know what those costs were going to be. So if I click shipping, I've just made this quite simple, shipping job 1006065. The reason I've done that is just again highlighting that that number is going to be a very key reference point in assigning costs if you want to get to an extremely granular level. So embed that job number in all of your communications with your shipping companies. Make sure that they, in their bills to you, are going to communicate that job number because it will make this process significantly easier. So let's go assign expenses to a customer or project again. And now you can see we can choose 1006065. But this particular job only has $18.18 in shipping. So we'll check that single box and click assign. And now we'll choose 1006064 and we'll be finding other projects as well as per this particular reference. Oh, careful there, always assign it. Like I said before, there we go. So we're going to assign this particular item there. And you can see that assigning these, we're assigning the different rows on this bill to different projects. Once again, choosing projects and all projects. You can now see that this has also again updated to show the shipping as well. So what we can do now is we can head into a project financials report directly from here. And that's where we'll be able to see that $18 in shipping that we had. $18.18 in shipping is accounted for here. So you can see very accurately an entire breakdown of everything to do with this particular project. The report that will be most useful though will be to head into accounting, reports, search for project, and you'll want the project summary report. You could choose which project statuses make sense here. I'll select all of those and I'm going to say group by contact. I like that, and choose update. We can now see the job for total plumbing options, 1006065. It's listed here. We can see that the cost amounts, the invoiced amounts, and so on, and therefore we can see our profit margin here as well in a more summarized version. And because Xero is really strong in reporting, you can customize this report to show and not show whatever makes sense for you. Then I would recommend clicking this star on the top right-hand side. So if you're accessing this regularly, you can just simply choose accounting, project summary report without having to go through that search process to save some time. I hope that video was helpful. It's obviously great that you can get this level of granular reporting information by simply tying together that invoice and all of the purchase orders related to an individual job, which can be used in so many different ways. You have the awesome functionality of being able to export this and create your own calculations and things like that in Excel as well. Also, please remember that I am not a Xero expert. I understand very deeply how we interact with Xero. I was able to spin up a pretty easy Zapier integration to create the project through the Zapier integration. But you may also want to chat with your accountant or bookkeeper, who is usually a certified Xero specialist, just about how they might recommend that you do this, or if they can see any time-saving ways of you being able to connect the dots with these different things. So hope that's been helpful. And again, thanks for using Hoops.